Good morning. Peace and blessings, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Rob YB Youngblood coming at you with session number 6 of the Confidence Builder series, which is a big part of the Collaboration Creates Currency movement. I'm your host, Rob YB Youngblood, and I'm excited about the opportunity to share some insight, information, and inspiration that will uplift you on this beautiful Sunday, April 7th. Last few days we've been reading out of The Magic of Thinking Big. If you haven't caught the last couple of episodes, I encourage you to do so. Just scroll down my timeline and you'll be able to catch it. And we talked a lot about in the last couple of days this topic called excusitis, which is a mind deadening disease that prevents people from becoming successful. There are people who have situations that they could use them as excuses, but they choose not to. And then there's a large majority of people who have similar situations that use their situations as reasons for why they cannot. And so the purpose of this conversation, the purpose of this session is to make you more aware of these things so that you can overcome to become all that you desire to be. And so last couple of days we talked about health excusitis, and then I gave you some tips on how to beat health excusitis. Today we're going to talk about just the fact that some people use intelligence as a reason why they cannot be successful. And so let's start off. It says intelligence excusitis, or I lack brains, is common. In fact, it's so common that perhaps as many as 95% of the people around us have it in varying degrees. Unlike most other types of excusitis, people suffering from this particular type of the malady, hopefully I said that right, suffer in silence. Not many people will admit openly that they think they lack adequate intelligence. Rather, they feel it deep down inside. This is probably another term for what's the term? It'll come to me in 2 minutes. Most of us make two basic errors with respect to intelligence. We underestimate our own brain power, and we overestimate the other fellow's brain power. Because of those errors, many people sell themselves short. They fail to tackle challenging situations because it takes a brain. But along comes the fellow who isn't concerned about intelligence, and he gets the job. What really matters is not how much intelligence you have, but how you use what you have. All right, let me say that again. What really matters is not how much intelligence you have, but how you use what you do have. The thinking that guides your intelligence is more important than the quantity of your brain power. Let me repeat, for this is vitally important. The thinking that guides your intelligence is much more important than how much intelligence you have. So basically, the way you use your thoughts, or the way you use your mind, or the way that you think is much more important than how much knowledge you actually have. In answering the question, should your child be a scientist, Dr. Edward Teller, one of the nation's foremost physicists, said, a child does not need a lightning fast mind to be a scientist. Nor does he need a miraculous memory. Nor is it necessary that he get very high grades in school. The only point that counts is that the child have a high degree of interest in science. Interest, enthusiasm, is the critical factor even in science. So those are the two factors that are critically important. Interest. So having an interest in something is important, and then having the enthusiasm or excitement about it is critical. With a positive, optimistic, and cooperative attitude, a person with an IQ of 100 will earn more money, win more respect, and achieve more success than a negative, pessimistic, uncooperative, uncooperative individual with an IQ of 120. Just enough sense to stick with something, a chore, a task, a project, until it's completed pays off much better than idle intelligence. So you got to use what you have, right? You got to use what you have, even if idle intelligence be of genius caliber. For stickability is 95% of ability, meaning if you just keep doing it, you'll outpace all those other folks who just simply have it. At a homecoming celebration last year, I met a college friend whom I had not seen for 10 years. Chuck was a very bright student and was graduated with honors. His goal, when I last saw him, was to own his own business in western Nebraska. I asked Chuck what kind of business he finally established. Well, he confessed, I didn't go into business for myself. I wouldn't have said this to anyone 5 years ago or even 1 year ago, but now I'm ready to talk about it. As I look back at my college education now, I see that I became an expert in why a business idea won't work. I learned every conceivable pitfall, every reason why a small business will fail. You've got to have ample capital. Be sure the business cycle is right. Is there a big demand for what you will offer? Is local industry established? Is it stabilized? 1,001 things to check out. The thing that hurts most is that several of my old high school friends who never seemed to have much on the ball and didn't even go to college now are very well established in their own business. But me, I'm just plodding along, auditing freight shipments. Had I been drilled a little more in why a small business can succeed, I'd be better off in every way today. The thinking that guided Chuck's intelligence was a lot more important than the amount of Chuck's intelligence. Why some brilliant people are failures. I've been close for many years to a person who qualifies as a genius, has high abstract intelligence, and is a Phi Beta Kappa. Despite this very high native intelligence, he is one of the most unsuccessful people I know. He has a very mediocre job. He's afraid of responsibility. He has never married. Lots of marriages end in divorce. He has few friends. People bore him. He's never invested in property of any kind. He might lose his money. This man uses his great brain power to prove why things won't work, rather than directing his mental power to searching for ways to succeed. Because of the negative thinking that guides his great reservoir of brains, this fellow contributes little and creates nothing. With a changed attitude, he could do great things indeed. He has the brains to be a tremendous success, but not the thought power. Another person I know was inducted into the Army shortly after earning the PhD degree from a leading New York university. How did he spend his 3 years in the Army? Not as an officer, not as a staff specialist. Instead, for 3 years, he drove a truck. Why? Because he was filled with negative attitudes towards fellow soldiers. I'm superior to them. Towards Army methods and procedures, they are stupid. Towards discipline, it's for others, not me. Towards everything, including himself, I'm a fool for not figuring out a way to escape this trap. This fellow earned no respect from anyone. All his vast store of knowledge lay buried, his negative attitudes towards him into a flunky, and it turned him into a flunky. Remember, the thinking that guides your intelligence is not much more important than how much intelligence you have. Not even a PhD degree can override this basic success principle. Several years ago, I became a close friend of Phil F., one of the senior officers of a major advertising agency. Phil was director of marketing research for the agency, and he was doing a bang up job. Was Phil a brain? Far from it. Phil knew nothing about research technique. He knew next to nothing about statistics. He was not a college graduate, though all the people working for him were. And Phil did not pretend to know the technical side of research. What then enabled Phil to command $30,000 a year while not one of his subordinates earned $10,000? This, this, Phil was a human engineer. Phil was 100% positive. Phil could inspire others when they felt low. Phil was enthusiastic. He generated enthusiasm. Phil understood people, and because he could really see what made them tick, he liked them. Not Phil's brains, but how he managed those brains made him 3 times more valuable to his company than men who rated higher on the IQ scale. Out of every person who enrolled in college, fewer than 50 will graduate. I was curious about this, so I asked a director of admissions at a large university for his explanation. It's not sufficient intelligence, he said. It's not insufficient intelligence, he said. We don't admit them if they don't have sufficient ability. And it's not money. Anyone who wants to support himself in college today can do so. The real reason is attitudes. You would be surprised, he said, how many young people have become The real reason is attitudes. You would be surprised, he said, how many young people leave because they don't like their professors, the subjects they must take, and their fellow students. The same reason, negative thinking, explains why the door to top flight executive positions is closed to many young junior executives. Sour, negative, pessimistic, depreciating attitudes rather than insufficient intelligence hold back thousands of young executives. As one executive told me, it's a rare case when we can pass up a young fellow because he lacks brains. Nearly always it's attitude. Once I was retained by an insurance company to learn why the top 25% of the agents were selling over 75% of their insurance, while the bottom 25% of the agents sold only 5% of total volume. Thousands of personnel files were carefully checked. The search proved beyond any question that no significant difference existed in native intelligence. What's more, differences in education did not explain the difference in selling success. The difference in the very successful and the very unsuccessful finally reduced to differences in attitudes or difference in thought management. The top group worried less, was more enthusiastic, had a sincere liking for people. We can't do much to change the amount of native ability, but we can change the way we use what we have. So I want to encourage you that when it comes to intelligence excusitis, the first thing that we have to challenge ourselves to do is to stop measuring ourselves with others. We might look at another person and say, well, how is it that they can do this and how is it that they can do that? Now, that analysis allows for us to possibly see where we can make changes. But when we solely focus on why others can and why we can't, we've already lost, right? We've already lost. The biggest thing to realize from this particular session is the importance of understanding is that it's not the amount of intelligence you have, it's not the amount of degrees that you have, it's not the amount of books that you've read, it's what you've done with the information, with the knowledge, with the wisdom that you have obtained. And it's tied to your attitude. If you have the right attitude, you'll see possibilities. If you have the wrong attitudes, you'll see nothing. So if the goal is to overcome intelligence excusitis to become successful, first start by stop comparing yourself to others. And second, use what you have to get what you want. This is the Confidence Builder series with myself, Rob YB Youngblood, coming at you. I pray that you found value in this information. You can feel free to go and pick your copy of The Magic of Thinking Big up from Resist Booksellers, phenomenal black-owned bookstore in Petersburg, Virginia, owned by one of my Virginia Union brothers, Demetrius Frazier. You can get your copies from there, whether in store or online, resistbooksellers.com, and get your copy and just read this, man. This information is powerful because it's all about thinking bigger than where you are today. Any challenges you have, you can overcome them. Any situations that come in your life, you can overcome them. Financial situations, you can overcome them. How? Based on how you think. Now, in the beginning, it may not look like much is happening, but when you apply what you learn and you put in the time and the energy, you'll start to see changes happen. Continue to follow us at the Collaboration Creates Currency movement, which is at the Collaboration Creates Currency movement.com to learn more about the movement. If you have yet to order your copy of Collaboration Creates Currency, the blueprint for visibility, credibility, and profitability, I encourage you to do so by going to collaborationcreatescurrency.com. I want to give a shout out to all of my members of my Collaboration Creates Currency coaching community who are gaining insight and information on how to develop their own movements. Because when you develop a movement, everything that follows the movement gets supported. And so we want to encourage each and every one of you, if you don't have a coach, get a coach. If you haven't developed a reading habit, develop a reading habit. If you're not executing on the ideas that you have, execute on the ideas that you have. Don't make excuses. Don't talk yourself out of it. Watch your attitude. Watch the way that you speak, and watch your life change. Be encouraged, be blessed, but most of all, be faithful over the gift that you've been given. And remember, your gift will make room for you. We'll see you on the next session of the Confidence Builder series. Peace.